Yeah.
Yes, I did. I take full credit.
Yeah. Well, okay. So just so y'all know, I typically don't record us talking through last week's assignment. That's just kind of more informal. But thank you for both reminders to go ahead and start recording. We should be recording now. So this week our example data in class is looking at applications, admissions, and yield for students that are entering college. Number of applicants, percent admitted, and then of course the percent of those admissions that actually enrolled are the yield. And I've got example data. It's real, it's public. It is all Georgia public, or I think all Georgia institutions as a whole, post-secondary. And the source for this is actually a data source that I'm very, very comfortable, very, very familiar with. I am, if I can do that, there we go. My clicker is so low. There we go. This is iPads. This is the Integrated Post-Secondary Education Data System. It's my go-to because I am a data provider. I am a coordinator for all of the institutions in my system to provide data. And I am also on what's called the National Post-Secondary Education Cooperative. I serve as the 2-year college system representative because I have 2-year colleges and 4-year colleges in my system. There's only about 13 of us that sit on this panel. So I'm very familiar with this. If anybody ever wants to talk about iPads data, let me know. I'm also a trainer in this realm as well. The Association for Institutional Research, not the Arkansas one, but this association is Professional Trade Association. It provides training on the use of iPads data and the preparation. And I am apparently like the spotlight iPad educator. Look at that! Look at that young face right there. Man, that was like years ago. So there's 30 of us that do this work. So if you want someone from your home state, we actually do have quite a few folks from Georgia, Georgia Southern, Georgia Institute for Technology, University System of Georgia. Yeah. So anyway, all that aside, just want to kind of give you a quick knowledge of what we're talking about regarding iPads. iPads take hundreds and hundreds of hours every year for each individual institution to submit data to, and it's a lot of stuff. So this is one very, very small piece of it, which is looking at applications, admissions, and yield. So our example data in Excel, can everybody see that okay? This is the year. And then we've got what's called a unit ID. A unit ID is essentially just an institutional ID number. ABAC is 138558. Agnes Scott is 138600. Every institution has their own ID. So regardless of what year it is, it's the same. Then I've also incorporated, just for the heck of it, latitude and longitude. There's these items called control and level. Level is what program level you award, right? 2-year or 4-year. Control is, are you public or are you private? Or are you private, not for profit or not for profit? And then our data elements themselves, this is all categorical, right? Then our continuous data elements are number of applicants, number of admits, and then number who enrolled. Okay? And then of course, Georgia being the state. The values for each of those level and control are here on the separate tab, just so you can see it. And so that's our example data for tonight. Okay, just kind of wanted to introduce you to that. We're not going to work with it in Excel. We're going to pull it into SPSS. So if you have, let's go back here. If you've got Canvas open under week 3, you should, I'm sorry, week 4, my bad. You should have the Excel and the SPSS file already available if you want to download them, okay? So the question for you, and let's hear from everybody. Why do we need Excel and SPSS? And I say need on purpose. Excel does a lot, and you've played around with it for the past 3 weeks now. But I'm telling you, and I'm not giving you any like option that you don't need. But why do you need Excel and something? Whether that's SAS, whether it's R, whether it's Jamovi, JASP, any and all statistical survey platforms. Why do we need both? Why do we need both?
For efficiency.
Yeah, for efficiencies, right? Man, that's definitely one. You know, one of the things that we can write a very long formula in Excel that will help us figure out, you know, predictive power of certain variables. But all we have to do is do a couple of clicks in SPSS, right, to get to the same result. What are some other reasons why you might need both?
To compare data and make sure they're accurate, I guess. Or
yeah, you might run analyses 2 different ways, right, and make sure that you get the same results. Good.
I sort of have thought about the capabilities of the Microsoft suite, and I've used Visual Basic coding. I'm not a developer, but I've had to learn some of the behind the scenes coding that Microsoft uses and use it for like to automate some work. It had nothing to do with data. I was just using Excel to move things around for me and put it in it, create a different format essentially of like a Word doc. So anyway, my question is, does SPSS have an ability to run your own like custom code, kind of like Microsoft does? And I'm not looking to like use VBA in Excel, but I know you can, and I'm curious if that's a difference.
Yep. So Laura Beth, we're actually going to talk about running scripts and what's called pasting in a little bit. So stay tuned. Yeah, it's actually one of the most powerful pieces of SPSS, and it will save you time and effort and tears over time. So definitely, we're going to talk through that. Who here? Give me a raise of hands. I'm going to change my little view of y'all so I can see things a little bit easier. Give me a raise of hands. Who has already worked with SPS? A little bit, Laura Beth? A little bit, Kara? Juliana, a lot or a little? I see the full hand up.
Yeah, the only reason I don't have my camera on is because my connection is so bad that my speech cuts out, but I wish it was like maybe like a fingertip that I could put up, because I worked on it and my professor did not explain it well, and I just never used it again and forgot all the inner workings of SPSS.
Manta, how about you?
Hello. Yeah, I'm just trying to catch up, sorry. I have used SPSS before in my undergraduate for the statistics. It was just to, use the variable, and it was not that much, but yeah, I have used SPSS before, but not in a like training or any kind of way, but.
Gotcha. Okay. Good. What about you, Rajane and Ken and Leah? How about y'all?
My undergraduate year, yes, I used it, but that was like 4 years ago, so I'm not that familiar with SPSS.
Okay.
I've never used either of the applications, actually.
Okay. And Ken, how about you?
I have not used it before.
Okay, good. All right, good. Then that means we're not going to waste our time showing you how to do things you already know how to do. Otherwise, I would say whoever's used it the most, you teach the class, right? No, I'm joking. I'm joking. No. So in the understanding that different types of software do different types of things, we do need multiple different platforms, and we need them for different reasons. Excel does a fantastic job helping us with data preparation, as you are going to figure out over the next several weeks. Excel is where I go to look at data quality, make sure all of my data are in the right way, organized in the right way. You may have heard Lord Beth say earlier that she kind of transposed the columns, right? To take a look at the values and the types of data that were included in that massive data set that I asked y'all to work with. You can do that very easily in Excel. In SPSS, you have your data on one tab and you've got your value, or essentially your fields, on another. It's really hard to kind of manipulate within the spreadsheet itself, if you call it a spreadsheet. But definitely there are pluses and minuses to both on either side. Excel, as I mentioned, does a lot. Your exercises that you've been working on have showed you that through pivot tables, through the tool pack, through functions. But SPSS takes it to a whole new level. SPSS also allows you to replicate analyses very quickly against different groups. So you can basically exclude groups with a couple of clicks. You can group by certain things. For example, if I wanted to only select institutions who were public, right? All I would have, I'm going to show you all later on how to do that, how to very quickly in SPSS basically filter out institutions that are private. Or you can organize your results based on that kind of grouping. And so it's, once you get the hang of SPSS, and it does take a little bit of practice and a little bit of training, which is why, again, you're going to be working both SPSS and Excel all semester. It really does help you grow professionally. Because let me tell you, you walk into a job interview, and this is usually when I would actually say, hey, think about your next job and think about your current job or your current aspirations, but think about the next one. What's it going to take for you to be successful in that role? I can tell you right now, when I interview people and hire people, I look for people who have the capacity to grow, right? Good attitude and capacity. Those two things, they can check all the boxes, and we usually have many people who check all the boxes on the application, but the folks with a good attitude that work well with other people and have the capacity to grow in their field and their skills are the ones that I want on my team, because I can ask them to figure something out and they will, right? So the good thing about learning both Excel and SPSS, even though you might have cursed me under your breath, like, why have we been messing around in Excel when we're going to spend a lot of our time in SPSS? Well, the reason why is because the skills are transferable to some degree, but also SPSS allows you to elevate your skills. And honestly, you might end up somewhere that just doesn't have the budget to buy this kind of software. And so you have to manage. You have to manage with what you have. So has anybody ever used any other statistical package, not just SPSS or Excel? Any others?
I think I used Tableau for like a week. And maybe the fact that I don't even remember what it's named tells you my skill level with it. But I think it did some of the math for us and made a pretty graph. I think you actually, Eric, might have came to that class and spoke about it. Okay.
Yeah, I guess lectured that time, I think.
Several decades ago, I used a bunch of data reporting software, which is not necessarily statistics software, but there was a lot of that kind of built in.
Gotcha. Do you remember what it was?
It was called IQ Objects.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Part of it.
in the deep recesses of your brain.
Yeah. All right. Who else? Anybody else?
I used MATLAB before. In my numerical methods class, we had to use it for just a general, but I haven't gone in depth, but yeah, I didn't know about MATLAB and we had to use it for that class.
And you said that is pronounced how? Matcha?
Yes.
Ma'am, so say it one more time.
MATLAB, MATLAB.
Okay. 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 Cool. Oh, Matt. Oh, yeah, MATLAB. Who hasn't heard of that? Never heard of that? It's one that's been around for a while too. Yeah. Ken, tell us about PG Admin. What is that?
It's you can import several CSV file in it, and then you can create your own column. So you can compare what you want to, like, you can compare your data and to get the result you want. And I think it's pretty easy to use. So you can create your own database and do the tables, and yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, not that I'm not going to ask you to do analysis in all of these, but I just wanted to kind of put out there what my go-tos are. Excel, you know, SPSS, we're going to talk about tonight. SAS and SPSS are generally an institution like Adam Scott is generally going to have a license for one or the other. My best friend went to the University of Missouri. They use SAS. I went to the University of Mississippi. We used SPSS. Agnes Scott has a license for SPSS. The others, and I'm sorry, Access. Access is also a Microsoft suite of products. You may have played around with it, used it, but it is very powerful, much more than you might think. PSPP, you might think that you're looking into a mirror because SPSS, PSPP, right? PSPP is the open source statistical platform, as well as Deducer, JASP, and Jamovi. All four of those are free. You can download them right now and use them. I don't want you to use them for my classwork, but if you lose access to a Porto, after you graduate, I did not want you to leave this program and not have resources to be able to run different types of statistical analysis beyond what you can do in Excel. Make sense, y'all? Cool. Okay, so remember how I told you before in SPSS, not Excel? Essentially, you can't play with it like it's a spreadsheet in Excel. So let's get our Excel file back up here and our SPSS file. Same data. Here we have all of our data on one spreadsheet, right? This is our data. Here are all of our fields, and here are all of the values, right? SPSS, we have a data view and a variable view. Do you see that at the bottom? Variable view and the data view. You're currently looking at the data view. It looks a lot like Excel, right? See how it goes year, unit ID, institution name? Well, the difference between Excel and SPSS is I can change this right here from institution name to I don't know, right? Over here, I can't do that. I can't really do anything to the institution name. The way SPSS is set up is that the data values are in one view, and then all of the variables and editing of the variables is in the variable view. So it knows that the labels are essentially, and the names are essentially over this way. Now notice, in Excel, it doesn't necessarily tell you anything about any of these variables right off the bat. If you wanted to look, you know, you could essentially click on something, and up here at this in this little number menu, you could pull down the drop down to see general. But I think everything on this spreadsheet says it's general, right? Right? Does that make sense? It's not changing. Well, when you bring it into SPSS, SPSS pays a lot more attention to the types of values that you have. And so what it's looking at is, okay, the year, it recognizes that it's a number. It recognizes that it's 4 characters long, or wide, rather. It recognizes that the unit ID is 6 characters wide. And it recognizes that the string of the institution name, remember we're talking about what types of variables we have. The institution name is actually a string, it's characters, and the widest it gives is 59 characters, okay? So again, SPSS knows all of this as soon as you bring it in, as soon as you import the data. And the easiest way to import the data is to just say import data. File, import data in Excel. And there it is, right? So, gonna try to look, okay. Basically it asks you what sheet you want. I want the data sheet. I thought it was taking a little too long. I want the data sheet because that's where my data is. And then it asks you a couple of questions. If you want to ignore hitting rows and columns, you can. I try not to do that. So keep them up, and then hit OK. And again, look at that. It's so smart. It brought everything in automatically. Brought everything in automatically. So now let's go look. Let's go look at the variable view specifically. And feel free to follow along on your own with your own SPSS file open up if you can. What we have here under the variable view is what we call the metadata. This is data about the data, right? Just because I say we're going to calculate, number of applicants, well, how do we describe the value applicants, right? Is it categorical, scale, nominal? How many columns does it have? If it's missing, do we have do we note or signify if it's missing with something? And also, are there prescribed values? So continuous data, like applicants, don't have any kind of prescribed values, right? Don't have any kind of prescribed values. But remember, when we looked at control and level over here in Excel, if you remember control and level, we had value labels for them. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, right? 4 or more, at least 2, less than 2, public, private, for-profit, right? So in order to change this, I mean, you can change these pretty easily, right? There's always a little menu option, but I want to define the values that I'm looking for in control and level. So all I have to do is hit the little 3 dots, I call it an ellipsis, next to the values. And for the value of 1, I know that 1 is public, right? So I type public, and then I click add. 2 is private, not for profit, and 3 is private, for profit, right? So boom, that's it. Now, when we analyze our data under the Analyze menu, if we run frequencies on our data, it will actually tell us private, for-profit, private, not-for-profit, or public, even though we didn't change any of the values in this column, right? It still says 1, 2, 3, right? Still says 1, 2, 3, but we've told SPSS what 1, 2, and 3 mean. So let's tell SPSS what 1, 2, and 3 mean in level. 1 is 4-year, right? 2 is 2-year, and 3 is less than 2-year. Hit add, and then okay. Make sure I got that right? Yep, less than 2 years. So now that we've defined what those values mean in the variable view, and we've checked everything else, institution name is nominal, right? That's right, it's a category. Control and level are also nominal, they're categories. Everything else is scale because it's numerical. Now we can come back over to our data, just make sure we don't have any missing numbers, right? It looks like, yeah, looks like we're okay. Remember how I told you before, analyzing data is actually a lot easier at SPSS because that's what SPSS was intended to do. I mean, that's clear and simple. SPSS was intended to help you analyze data. So if we do frequencies, and we do frequencies by control, public, for-profit, not-for-profit, and let's just say, we want to go into statistics. Now that we've moved it over into the variable, we can say, okay, what do we want? We don't really need any of those. Really, we just want to know kind of what the frequency is. Look at that. Our labels, trying to zoom in a little bit for you. I guess it may or may not. But our labels are here: public, not-for-profit, for-profit. So instead of having to go in and change all the values from 1, 2, and 3 to be meaningful, we can define the values in SPSS on the variable view. So the things that I want you to be familiar with as we go through this class, not tonight, we're not going to go through all these tonight, but under Analyze, the areas that I'm going to expect for y'all to be familiar with are things like descriptive statistics, frequencies, those sorts of things, comparing means, correlation, regression, and non-parametric tests. All of these are under Analyze. So descriptive statistics, right? Compare means, correlate, regression, non-parametric tests. Now, I've told you also that we can do certain types of selections, as well as transformation. It's actually pretty nice. One of the ways that we can do this is using the transform menu. So I'll be honest with you, the 3 or really 4 menus you're going to use. Think about it like Excel, right? In Excel, the menus we use probably the most are home, maybe insert for charts, right? Maybe data, and then maybe, I don't know, view or maybe view or page layout if you're trying to print. But in SPSS, the 4 menus you're going to use in this class are data, transform, analyze, and graphs. Okay? So I recommend as you work through this week's lesson, assignment and everything, go ahead and start looking at all the things that are included on those 4 menus. I'm going to take a sip of coffee. Anybody have any questions? All right. So here we go. Transform. Transform is actually a pretty powerful command. set of options here. We can compute variables. We can, let's just say, add the number of, we're looking at that massive data set that I gave y'all last week about political donations. We could, Kara, to your point, right, about the two columns, right, the cumulative and the individual donation, we could subtract, we could tell compute variable to subtract from the cumulative the current, right? And I mean, create a new variable right then and there, right? You can divide the current donation from the cumulative to get the percent for that one donation to that one candidate at that one point in time, right? So this, and I hope y'all can see it. I'm sorry, it's tiny probably on your screen, but all of these are mathematical functions like add, subtract, multiply, divide, equal, not equal, less than or equal to. Laura Beth, you have something? Oh, okay. I thought I saw your hand raised. Oh, thumbs up. Great. Good deal. For the purpose of tonight, what I want to show you how to do is basically recode things into different variables. So under transform, let's say I wanted to recode into different variable, right? I want to go recode into different variable. And, oh, sorry, there it is. Recode into different variables. And I want to take control. Now, remember how we had 3 options for control. What were they?
I think one was corrective.
Say that again a little bit. Public, private, for-profit, not-for-profit, right? So public was 1, nonprofit private was 2, and then for-profit private was 3. What if we wanted to change our analysis to look at public versus private only? And private includes for-profit and not-for-profit, right? Instead of having to go through creating another variable, like inserting a column, you know, bringing things over into Excel, all we have to do is click transform, recode into different values, clicking on old and new values, and notice how the old value was a 1 for public, right? The new value for public is going to be 1 again. Let's just keep it the same, right? And then we click add. So we create the old, we define the old, we define the new, we hit add. So 1 is 1, right? 2 was private nonprofit. Well, we're going to code that into the new private only, and we're going to call that 2, all right? So then we hit add, so 2 is 2, but then we've got 3. 3 is private for-profit. If we're trying to create a single private category of variables, what do we need to do here? What do we need to do here, y'all? If we want private for-profit and private not-for-profit to be the same and analyzed in the same way as private institutions, shouldn't they have the same categorical code? So let's put 2 in the new value and hit add. So 1 is going to turn into 1. 2 is going to turn into 2. 3 is also going to turn into 2 because we're creating different variables here, okay? We're creating a whole different variable. We're going to hit continue, and then it's going to say, okay, tell us about this variable. And I'm going to say, all right, it's going to be control, recode, which is on just what we call them in general. When we recode variables or revise them, we can do that. So the label is going to be control, and I can put anything in here. I can say public and private. Change. So all you have to do is hit change. And now you might be able to see it added some text right here. When you're ready, hit OK. And all it's going to tell you is that it recoded the control of the institution from 1 to 1, 2 to 2, 3 to 2 into this new variable, control recode, and that the label is control recode and you know, the variable and the label are those things execute. Laura Beth, remember how you asked about syntax and programming language? This is the programming language that SPSS executed to do that. Okay, so let's do that again. Before I even show you the aha moment. Variable view, control recode, just gonna delete it, act like it didn't happen. Did y'all see that? On. We only have control of institution, we don't have our control recode anywhere here. Okay? It was here, but I decided to delete it. Okay? It is not in the data. Oops. There. Nope. That's what I meant to do. There, clear. All right. So now it's gone. Not in the data, right? All I'm going to do is double click here. I'm going to select that syntax that it produced when it produced the new variable. And I'm going to go to File, New, Syntax. I'm going to hit Paste. And I'm going to select it all and hit Execute or Run Selection. And guess what? We've got control recode back. Pretty cool, huh? Now look at the labels. The labels here. Oh, I'm sorry, get it over a little further. Even though we defined it as 1 to 1, 2 to 2, and 3 to 2, it lost our values that we defined. It doesn't translate those. All you have to do is hit copy or control C, come down here and hit control V. But we need to change it because we no longer have a 3, right? We just have 1 and 1, 2 and 2. So we remove 3 and we change private, not for profit, to just private. And now when we go to the data, watch this. Control of institution, see 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 3, etc. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. When we do frequencies, we have the old control, we back it out, we put the new control in. We can hit paste. Remember I told you paste is going to be your best friend. Paste, all it does is it pastes it into your syntax. So we clicked Analyze, Descriptives, Frequencies, and instead of hitting OK, we just hit Paste. Because now I can run my frequencies at any point in time I want by selecting it, execute, and now we just have public and private instead of public, private, non-for-profit, private, for-profit. So do you all see, I mean, I hate to say it, but that was about 10 minutes of translating and managing and recoding, very quickly analyzing data. Does that make sense? Now, what if we wanted to run frequencies on our other data values, which are level, right? Level of institution. What if we wanted to run frequencies on level? Can anyone tell me how to do that? Frequencies by level. Yeah.
Is it under analyze? I wanna
Analyze.
click. Yeah, and then I'm just guessing.
That's right. Well, option one, yes.
So far,
I'm going to show you another one. Yeah. What's next?
I don't know. This is how I learn. I play and I dig through menus till I find what works. Is it under
It's okay.
it's not
Hey.
descriptive?
It is.
Oh, yay. Okay, frequencies.
Frequencies, right? Okay. Don't ever be afraid to guess. Okay. The other way. What's another way to do it? Have I shown you another way to do it? Or Beth, are you shaking your head yes?
The syntax you had on that example. So maybe we could copy that and paste it somewhere.
Or why don't we just paste level of institution over variable and run it right like that?
What is this
Kara.
view called? Oh, sorry, Karen.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead and answer Laura
ahead,
Beth
Kara.
first.
Okay, this is the output. So let's talk about the windows, right? We've got 3 windows open right now. This is the output. This is where every single output shows up, right? You can scroll through or you can navigate over here on the left. The other window we have, of course, is our data and our variable view. But then the third window we have is our syntax. They're all 3 separate. You have to save all 3 individually. Don't save one and then close and then don't save the rest, okay? You save your output, you save your syntax, you save your SPSS file. They all have different file, it's like a .sav, a .spo, a dot, So be sure to save all 3 whenever you work on your assignments. Beth, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I just it wasn't intuitive to me that we could just change that variables equals, because I didn't really realize that each time we're pressing play, it's kind of saving its own report somewhere else.
Yeah. Yep. There's the frequency for public and private, right? There's the frequency for level. Yeah, it kind of puts the box around them. Kara, what do you want to say?
Oh, I was just going to ask, but you answered it in your explanation, kind of around the way. Is there a benefit to doing the copy and paste in the syntax window versus going through all the menus? And I'm assuming it's what Ratne mentioned earlier, which is efficiency of clicks.
Efficiencies. So, how long did it take for you to do lab assignment 2? Estimate the amount of time.
Maybe 2 to 3 hours.
Anybody else go longer or shorter? Well, y'all, let me tell you, SPSS can open 1 million records much quicker than Excel can. Again, it's built to handle very large data sets. But yeah, so that's one example of transforming, recoding into different variables, doing one analysis one time. And to what y'all mentioned, actually, yeah, we can very easily hit enter, come down here, change that to control recode, right? And watch this. Highlight both. Highlight both. I'm gonna delete everything out of here. Highlight both. And there's both. Kind of crazy, huh? Also, under the syntax, just take out control recode. I think it's comma. We'll find out right now. And you've got both again. Got both again. Instead of two different, so here is two different outputs, two different frequencies, all separate, right? Frequency 1, level, frequency 2, control. Here, we ran frequencies, but we ran them concurrently. So it's under one frequency kind of tree, okay? So there's lots of ways to, I can't say it out loud. We had a cat in class last week, but you know, lots of ways to get this kind of stuff done. So please don't feel like you are gonna break SPSS. Yep, there he is, or she. Don't feel like you're gonna break SPSS. Use the in-class data file to play around with. Use it to play around with. Remember how I told you can compute variables? This is also one of the real powerful things in SPSS. Going to transform, compute variables. Let's take the number enrolled, right? Double click it, divide by number of admissions. And let's call that yield. Hit paste, because you should always hit paste first. It helps you just, you know, learn this kind of stuff better. So here's our formula: compute yield by dividing enrolled total admissions by total admissions total. When we select and run, it computes the yield. We have a yield formula, or a yield variable now. And look at that. We have the percent of students that were admitted that enrolled. Well, what do you see? What do you see here? Why don't we have yields for every single institution? The cat knows, Warbeth. You gotta let her answer. Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, it's whatever that 6.9's value is, which must stand for something's not there.
Let's go look at variable view. I told SPSS that 6.9 was a missing value indicator. If SPSS knows that it's missing, it doesn't compute anything for it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about higher education institutions. Just so you know, not every institution of higher education is selective. 5 of my institutions and my 7 institution system are what they call open admission. All you have to do is have a pulse and a high school diploma, and you can go to any of our community colleges. Agnes Scott is more selective. What do I mean by that? I mean, Agnes Scott had 1,751 applicants. They only admitted 1,100 of those students, right? Out of those 1,100, 300 came, which is normal. It's always a low percent, like 26%. But the important thing to know is that if you don't have to report applicants to the federal government because you're open, then you also don't have to report the number of admits, and thus you don't have to report the number who enrolled. So for any institution in Georgia, that's considered open admission, and we've got 3 of them here. Albany Tech, that sounds about right? Open admission, technical colleges, community colleges. I would assume all of your technical colleges, yep, are open. My colleague Daniel Francis, he works at the University System of Georgia. He used to work at the Georgia Community Technical College System. He always used to remind me, we are open, we are open, we are open. We don't have that data, so I would always ask him for data. But this is a great example of even when you compute a variable, SPSS knows it's missing. Do we have any way of telling Excel, hey, don't do this, it's missing?
Yeah. Yes.
Wow.
Oh, I'm sorry. My mic has been unmuted at me, like cursing at my cat. Yeah, I think you can do like if blank do nothing or
if error or if blank. Yeah. Well, here's the thing. We don't have blanks here. We have these 9999. So if I would have divided 99999 by 999999, it would have actually shown a 100% yield in Excel. So I'll show you real quick. So again, if I was computing a new variable, right, called yield here, and I said admit divided by, or enroll divided by admit, right, 6226, so like I know y'all or something. But look at that, 100%. Because we don't tell Excel 9999 is missing. Instead, we have to delete it or find some other way around it. But SPSS makes it really quick and easy to define a missing value on the variable view. Does that make sense, y'all?
So yes, is there a reason you like to use the 6 nines or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a reason. So no higher education institution in America is going to have one fewer than 1 million applicants. 1 million is just too big, right? In social science research, in my sociology program that I did, we used 999, like 3 nines, for most missing values, except for things like income and some other things. Like for age, if we didn't know how old they were, it was 999, because no one's going to be 999 years old, right? It depends again on the type of study, but I would always make sure that your missing values can't show up in your data set naturally, right? So if you're using this data and you're looking at, let's just say, frequency of clicks on a website, right? 999 could actually be a logical number. You could have almost 1,000 clicks on a website. So you'd want to come up with something else, maybe even a letter, some sort of other combination of factors. But yeah, good question. Good question. So that is both how to transform through recoding, as well as transforming through computing. Does that sound pretty feasible for y'all? Sarah?
Did you say that you assigned the 999999 after the data was brought in? And so does that mean that those fields were blank in the original data?
I put the 9999s in the original data. When I brought the file in, they came in with it, but I assigned the 999 whatever here as missing on my own.
Okay.
So it took just a little bit of data prep,
And
But
did
yeah,
you do that data
iPad
prep in
data.
Excel?
Oh, sorry, say that one more time.
No, I was going to ask if you did the data prep in Excel.
Yes, yeah. iPad's data doesn't tell you it's missing. It's just, it doesn't have data. In fact, but I don't think we have much missing in this one. So, but yeah, I did a little bit of background work for y'all just to help make the class go a little quicker. Hey, why don't we take a little bit of time break? Is that okay with y'all? Okay. How long?
10 minutes would be
Yeah,
great.
I'm good with like 5 to 10 minutes.
10 minutes. Good deal.
All right.
I've got 5 till, so let's come back at 5 after. All right, here we go. Can y'all hear me okay? Deal, good deal. Okay, so next, I also want to show you the data menu. The data menu allows you to do what's called split the file or select the cases. This helps you with showing your output in different ways. Let's just say we wanted to, again, just sticking with our example data file, let's say we wanted to split the output by level or by control, by public versus private, even using our newly recoded control variable. All you have to do is go to the data menu and say split file. And then you can come down and find control, the revised or recoded control, and say you want to compare those two groups. All you have to do is move it over. Really easy. You can actually do it two ways. You can hit that little over button, or you can just drag it, either one you want to do. And then hit OK or paste. Paste if you want to see what that looks like in the syntax. It's just split file layered by control recode, right? Now we are doing it by control. So let's see what our levels look like when we split the file by control. Basically, we're going to organize our output showing the number of institutions that are 2-year and 4-year and less than 2-year by those that are private and those that are public, okay? So going back to our original syntax, highlighting it and executing for level of institution, let's take off control. Hit play because now we're splitting the file. One second, sorry y'all. I don't think I executed my other syntax, did I? That's what it is. So remember how I pasted the syntax, but I didn't actually execute it? Let's execute it. So now we're doing it by control. And now let's show the frequencies by level. Apologies. Public, private, control. Frequencies for 4-year and 2-year, 4-year and 2-year, and less than 2-year. Do you see how that works? Kind of like creating a pivot table, right? You're defining what you want to organize it by, and then it's going to create all the different categories within each of those grouping variables. So the grouping variable is the control of the institution. The variable categories themselves are the level. Make sense? So again, really quick, really easy. Split file into what you want to group those variables by, right? Groups based on control.
So one
Yeah.
moment. You went to data and scroll down to split file.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, just making sure.
Yeah, split file. This is why it's so great to record these sessions, isn't it? Because I know I click fast, and I'm actually clicking pretty slow because I'm trying to walk y'all through it. But I know if it's your first time seeing this, which for many of you it is, don't be afraid. You've got this that's going to be posted. You've got YouTube, you've got Google. But yeah, so this is, again, the way to organize your output by groups, right? Whether it's public universities, private universities, and then by the level of the institution. So what is Agnes Scott? Is it a 4-year, a 2-year, or less than 2-year? 4-year, that's right. All right. So now what if we didn't want to split the file? Let's turn that off. Turn split file off. We can do it by, essentially you have to turn it off by hitting analyze all cases. Do not create groups. You can take out this, but it's still going to compare, expect to compare a group somehow, right? I'm not going to let you hit OK. You have to say analyze all cases and then hit OK. So now, what if we only wanted to count the frequency or the number of institutions that are public? We could then go to select cases. And in select cases, remember, public is what? Where do we find public? Is it in year, unit ID, latitude, longitude? Which one is it? What variable are we looking at?
Isn't it on the control?
That's right. That's right. Control.
So what are the different, maybe you're going to get into that, but I noticed they have different icons.
What do you mean you have different icons?
Oh, sorry. Yes, the year has like a ruler type thing, and then the control has like a bubbles.
Yeah, a Venn diagram type thing. Yeah. So this is, remember earlier when we went into the data itself? This is the type of measure, right? So there's the little categories, right? Red, blue, green, right? Makes sense? Categorical variables. Scale is numerical. So here, where was I? Yeah, data, select cases. You said, Laura Beth, it was control, right? Where we find public versus private. Well, we can bring either of the two control variables that we have. Remember, we have two now. We created a new one where it's just public versus private, but we also have the original one that is public, not-profit private, and for-profit private, right? So we have those three. Either one works here. It doesn't matter. For the sake of simplicity, let's just use public versus private, the new one, the recode one. And basically, you're going to say select values if a certain condition is satisfied. If a certain condition is satisfied. So this is like an if Excel function, right? So we say if, I love it, it's like select cases if control equals public. What does that mean? If what is the numerical value for public? 1, right? So if control recode equals 1, hit continue, hit OK or paste, and here we go. It's going to say, okay, split files off. I did that already. Then it's going to say value labels filter 0 means not selected, 1 means selected, and then the variable label filter where control recode equals 1. The really cool thing about this, is if you go back, once you do that, once you execute that, go back to your data file. Go back to your data file. You have a new variable. It's called filter. Don't worry about that. It's just, we have to create a filter variable in order to filter. You didn't do it. You don't have to worry about typing any of this. You did it when you hit select cases. But go to your data view. Now check this out. Anyone who has a control of anything other than 1, they have, for example, here we go. Agnes Scott, right? They've got a 2. What is this right here? On 270 and 271. What does that look like? It's basically saying do not include them in our analysis. It's taking them out. So it's a visual way of telling you who are we excluding when we select cases. Pretty cool, huh? So I select all cases to turn it off. There they all are. Back again. So I've shown you a couple of examples already about syntax. It really is please, please, please use it. In fact, there are going to be several assignments where I'm going to require that you submit a syntax file. You don't have to physically type any of that. I want you to paste it from your analysis, right? Hit paste, not OK. And you should be able to you know, have all of that compiled for you. All right, we've already talked about the output also, right? Already talked about the output. Remember how I told you all of these are separate files. So you can save by either file, save as, or just click the little disk button and it's on my desktop. You know, save it as example, right? But you see this is SPV. SPV, that is the output file format. So we hit save. You can close it. File for SPSS is a separate file. Notice that it has this little asterisk up here by the title. That means that something's happened to the file and we haven't saved it. So we save it. And oops, sorry, moving windows around. We can save it. And it's already, I've already got it saved in my folder, but yeah, save it as a SAV file. And then when you try to close, this is why I did this in this order. If you try to close the data editor, it's going to close everything, or it wants to close everything, because everything is based on the data editor. So be sure you save your syntax and your output first. And so I'm going to do an example, and this is SPS for syntax. And now, when you close the data editor, everything can close. In order to open it back up, get to my desktop. You can open up any of these individually, as long as you have the ability to. Does that, anybody who has SPSS on their desktop and who's using it in a Porto?
I'll be using a Porto for SPSS.
Okay.
I'll be using a Porto as well.
Okay. Rajane and Renta also said a Porto. Porto for Kara.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, yeah, good. Okay, well then that's good because we'll all be on the same page. You're not going to have a different version, rather, right? As you might expect, there are lots of different versions of SPSS. As they get updated, you know, they get a little bit different and better. But it's good that everybody's using the same thing. I recommend you talk to each other and work with each other on some of these things. It's not part of the assignment. Again, you're not assigned to groups by any means, but it just may help. It may help you think through it a little bit. So I want to spend a few minutes thinking about next week now. So as we've been, you know, you create a chart in Excel for week 2. As we continue to work, you're going to continuously try to figure out how to best visualize data. And SPSS, they do have data visualizations as well. So let me see if I can get that back open for us. There we go. If you have time, I highly recommend play around, like I said, with those menus in SPSS, but also go take a look at the graphs. Go take a look at the chart builder. The chart builder is going to be your friend, right? So in Excel, you can insert a chart, same way in SPSS, but in SPSS, you don't base it off of maybe some summary level data. rather you create the data that you want to chart out. So if we wanted to look at the yield, right, then we could look at the yield, there we go. We could do yield by institution type. And let's see. Trying to level of institution. You know, I like to use the legacy dialog box a little bit easier. Chart builder is good, but I like to know what I'm going to do on the front end, so I can do a simple bar chart and then hit define and say, okay, I want to do it by role. And the columns are the number of applicants. And it's a lot because we have a lot of different values. But it's not the easiest. It's not the easiest way to think about doing charts as it is in Excel. So please play around with it because it's not your typical like Excel type of Excel way of creating a kind of a summary level chart. I think what you need to do, and this is a number of cases, what's better is to play, break it, don't break it, look at it, but just go ahead and start looking at it now because we're gonna get into it pretty quickly. However, before we kind of get into the whole chart thing, really all dashboards, data visualization, it's really important to understand how to use color effectively. Does anybody here think that they're an expert in understanding data design and color? Anybody colorblind? You're lucky. My boss is colorblind. Makes for very interesting construction of reports, right? Because he's like, I can't read this. And I say, I know, just deal with it. You'll be all right, you know? I told him to figure it out today, actually. He laughed. But one of the things that I want y'all to really do on the front end as you work through how to visualize data in different ways, think about, and I've got a couple of links up here. They're also in the slides that you'll download. Think about what is beneficial to our audiences. And so one of the things that I do a lot of geographic mapping and color coding, but also just in general, it's always good to find a nice color palette, some sort of color palette that is either sequential or diverging, that allows you to help people see differences in things. So this is a website that I love called Color Brewer. And this allows you to either pick a sequential or a diverging or even a qualitative color scheme. I typically stick with sequential and diverging. And what we mean by that is sequential is, what if we were looking at the percent of applicants who are admitted from the lowest to the highest, right? That's sequential, right? Every college would fall somewhere on that spectrum. Divergence is when you have maybe, let's just say, during last year, people either increased their net worth or it decreased, right? A lot of people increased and a lot of people decreased. Some people lost their jobs, some people stayed employed, right? And so what we tend to see with diverging is there's some sort of split in the middle. And you can see that here, right? You can see like the split is the blank color. Maybe positive is gray, maybe negative is red, or any of these variations. But it's important to understand how people consume this type of information. And remember how I told you about my boss? He's colorblind, right? So guess what I try to do for him? I click this little checkbox that shows me only the colorblind safe spectrums, and luckily most of these are. Look at this. Under the diverging or qualitative, we lose a couple. We lose a couple. And the reason why, look at which ones we lose. Does anybody know the colorblind patterns that people experience? Okay. Red, green, and blue, yellow are the most prominent. So watch what happens. Watch which ones go away. The red, green, and the blue, yellow, right? Makes sense. So these are colorblind safe. If you're trying to print, all of those right there fit. But if you're trying to photocopy something, this is the only one that's divergent enough that's actually going to be safe to photocopy in grayscale. So it's actually kind of helpful, right? Thinking about how your data are going to be used. That's another reason why I love this data set on this website. It also allows you to pick your number of classes, and what we mean are how many colors do we need? How many colors do we need, right? So if you have 3 or 4, notice 3, right? Orange, purple, and white. Please tell me those are orange, purple, and white on your screen. Otherwise, I've got some color issues. But yeah, so 3, and then 4 adds in kind of a burnt orange, right? 5, kind of that yellow hue. And so, again, use this both in your assignments as well as in your professional life, please. And again, even though this is built for geography, you can make bar charts, right? And other types of charts with the same color scheme. And let me see if I can maybe hit refresh. Maybe it'll look a little bit better. You can get, depending on if you're in Paint or Excel or any other software, you might need to create, let's just go to Excel, right? More colors, custom. Here's the RGB menu, as well as a hex menu. RGB value, right? 255, 255, 255 is white. Over here, RGB, 247, 247, 247 is a very, very light gray, right? So it tells you how to create these colors in Excel. Kind of cool, huh? Good. If you want transparency, I mean, if you're interested in looking or just seeing what it looks like as you create a more transparent background, it allows you to kind of play around a little bit with that. Look, there's me somewhere over here that they did not identify. All right, next. The other one I wanted to show you is Color Picker. Sometimes, any of y'all, does anybody, I mean, y'all are all in an institution, but does anybody work for an institution, organization? Anybody have a logo? Yeah. What colors are in your logo?
My old logo was orange and white.
What is that orange logo referring to?
It was a turtle shell.
Oh, is it on the internet anywhere?
Oh, no, that it's old. It's old. I just,
Okay,
it was quite an ordeal trying to pick the right shade of orange, apparently.
Oh, okay. Well, there we go. Here we go. So this is I invited y'all to this, right? The newsletter that I published with my buddy, Eric. Yeah. So this is ours. I'm just going to do a quick print screen and chop it off. There it is. Save it as clipboard 1. Okay, perfect. I'm going to go back to Color Picker or HTML color codes, and I'm going to try to essentially find our color, right? So I can't remember if it's in this one or not. But essentially, what you can do in this one, this allows you to really find any hue of color. And there's a lot of different variations. If you are trying to really be creative, this doesn't tell you what, like the other website, right? It kind of tells you what goes well together, but this will help you build a palette. You see how we've built a palette up here a little bit? It will allow us to kind of build a palette, and it allows you to select what are called complementary, right? So if we are picking, let's just say that, let's come back down here to teal. Look at that. It automatically makes complementary colors for you, right? So we've selected this light teal, and it lightens up kind of the I don't know what color that is. Don't ask me to make it up. But we've got a light purple. It places, you know, a little bit of a weirdish green shade. And it allows you to kind of see all these different variations. There are color harmonies. I've got a, probably can't even see it, but there's my color wheel. That's my reminder to be harmonious in the colors that we pick. And so as we think about what goes well with what, right, the old color wheel tends to come back into play. So I'm not trying to be overburdensome about the use of color, but be intentional. Be intentional with how you construct your charts, your graphs. Make sure they're meaningful. Let's see if I can show you one from my own work. Oh, actually, so here, yeah, on the note, we track our numbers and we publicize them because we try to be really transparent. The edition that went out Wednesday went out to 870 subscribers, right? So this is the blue that's in our little logo. And then we kept it really clean and simple, black, gray, and a little bit lighter blue. We even put the tooltip in the same color scheme so you can see it. But in my own work, as you can imagine, I've got 7 institutions, right? 7 different logos, 7 different color schemes. Here they are. We honestly have 2 institutions that are so freaking close, and they're red. But I mean, it is what it is, right? It is what it is. So make sure you try to remain meaningful in the data and the color. That way, the data means more to people. All right, let's get into this week's assignment. This is discussion 2. Make sure it's out there before I say anything more. Yes, that's good. Yeah, perfect. It's out there. What I want you to do is I want you to find 2 functions in Excel, and I don't mean some. Okay, I don't mean like the easy one that you've already probably used, but I want you to go out and find those 2 functions, or at least 2 functions, and document how to use them in Excel as if you were teaching someone else in this class how to use it. Do step-by-step, screenshots, right? Do both of those. And then do the same functions, try to do the same calculations, do the same step, or not same steps, but do the steps in SPSS, right? So if you wanted to do like the average of something, right? Don't do average either. That's an easy one, but I'm just going to use it. If I wanted to do the average, I would do equal, right? Average, and then select my data. I would take screenshots of all the formula and everything else, and then I would, you know, paste that into a Word document. If I wanted to find the average in SPSS, I would just simply go to, right, descriptives, right? Select the variable, select mean, et cetera, et cetera. So find 2 functions that we've either used or not used, but not sum, not average, okay? Those are off limits. Yeah, this is a graduate level class, right? Got to challenge yourself a little bit. But do step-by-step screenshots and teach me, or really your classmates, because this is a discussion, teach us how to do it in SPSS and in Excel. And then what I want you to do is find some sort of resource or a website on the internet that also does it. for you, right? Find a resource that does it for you. And then you basically document how to do it step by step there as well. So 3 different steps. And then I want you to be critical. Write a critical review of each resource, noting the advantages or limitations of each one. You don't have to tell me, this is the one that I would use, but be critical of each one. Show the advantages of each one, right? But what the purpose of this discussion post exercise homework assignment is I want you to get more familiar with all 3 resources. And the best way to get you to do that is to act like you have to teach someone else how to use it. Make sense? Anybody scared?
I have one question logistically about the discussion posts. I think it would be easier for me to put together a Word document with all this information and upload that to the discussion. Would that be all right?
That's actually what I want. I don't want y'all to type in. I want y'all to upload your screenshots and that sort of thing. Yeah, manage it, right? You can PDF it or a Word document, whichever one. Yeah, good point. Good point. Yeah, don't try to publish this in a discussion. That the power may go out, and I'd rather you all save your work. Okay. Cool. Anybody have any questions?